Diddy's legal troubles keep getting worse. Newly obtained documents from his jail cell reveal that he has been trying to contact witnesses, and now even his lawyers are abandoning him. Could this mean a life sentence for Diddy?
He's doing fine. It's a difficult circumstance. He's making the best of the situation.
A situation one of Diddy's attorneys won't be part of moving forward. Anthony Rico announcing in court docs, under no circumstances can he continue defending the embattled rapper.
This is a serious proceeding with serious consequences, and all of us are addressing it accordingly.
In a motion filed on Thursday, Rico stopped short of revealing why he's stepping down from Diddy's legal team, just months ahead of the music mogul's scheduled trial date in May for sex trafficking and racketeering charges, all of which Diddy's denied.
You know, Dr. King called it the law of unintended consequences. So sometimes the more you push a person down, the stronger they get.
That's Rico speaking up late last year for his now former client. ET's learned the attorney's exit will not affect Diddy's other attorneys, nor their defense strategy.
I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case. Nothing has changed from his perspective.
You're going to hear about my party. They're going to be shutting them down. They're going to probably be arresting me.
After Diddy was arrested, Rico said he provided a high level of legal representation, but now, for reasons unknown, he can under no circumstances effectively serve in the upcoming trial.
Nobody's okay with staying in jail for now.
And high-profile death penalty attorney Anthony Rico. Now, while the pair joined around the same time, Anthony in a court filing on Friday said he's leaving the case. In the filing, Anthony Rico said, quote, "For the reasons set forth below, this motion for withdrawals is filed so that Sean Combs may move forward with his defense and to commence jury selection and trial without any delay. As a result of discussion with lead counsel Mark Agnifilo, this motion for withdrawal of counsel is filed. While I am aware that the local rule requires that an application for withdrawal of counsel is supported and granted, there are sufficient reasons related to protections afforded by the attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs," end quote. Now, essentially in legalese, I quit, but I can't go into details because of attorney-client privilege. According to the filing, though, the defense shakeup won't delay the case. Diddy will continue with 5 attorneys. That's Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos, Alexandra Shapiro, Jason A. Driscoll, and Anna Esteval. Now, a judge still has to sign off on the motion, but with the government taking no position on it and the fact Anthony Rico spoke with Mark Agnifilo about it before filing the motion, a judge will likely sign off on it.
Anthony Rico, a well-known death penalty attorney on Diddy's legal team, has just filed a motion to withdraw from the case. In his letter to the judge, Rico didn't provide a reason for leaving, stating that attorney-client privilege prevents him from explaining further. His decision followed discussions with Diddy's lead attorney Mark Agnifilo. Federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani shared his thoughts on this unexpected move.
With all of that being said, kind of going back to what potentially the reasoning might be, do you think that it might have been a personal conflict between Diddy and Anthony Rico, or do you think it might have been Anthony Rico with other counsel? But what do you make of all of that?
Potentially, it could be a conflict with the client, right? A disagreement. They just don't get along. The communication is poor. They don't agree on defense strategy. It could be a conflict with one of the other lawyers. Obviously, it seems like Agnifilo is the lead on this case, although Rico was certainly his 1B. And I know obviously there's other lawyers on the case. Obviously, a lot of the victims are female. They're going to want female lawyers on the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross-examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of sexual assault or abuse. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them in such a way that he has to get off the case. So it could be any number of potential conflicts.
Rico was the only black attorney on Diddy's defense team, and his departure came shortly after the team claimed that the case against Diddy was racially motivated. Could this have influenced his decision? However, former federal prosecutors believe this argument won't hold up in court since Diddy's alleged victims come from different racial backgrounds.
I think it has to be the defense, the consent, because look, sometimes you can argue that the sexual activity never happened, right? You know, it wasn't me, defense. But this is not your typical sexual assault case. There are a lot of people there, right? There are people that are arranging the sex workers. There are people that are setting up lights and cameras, booking hotel rooms. Obviously, Diddy has a large entourage. So there's a lot of witnesses there, and a lot of this was allegedly recorded. So I think it's going to be very difficult to argue that it wasn't me. So you're going to have to argue that it was consensual. And we've talked about the line that separates sex trafficking from consensual sex, that force, fraud, or coercion. So I fully expect the defense to be, this was all consensual. These are all people who are trying to shake Diddy down for money. This is all extortion. That's why they're pursuing these claims. They're just piling on. But really, this is regret, not rape. And I think that's the defense strategy in this case.
Sean Combs asked the judge in his federal case to throw out one of the charges. He says he's being targeted because he's a black man and the charge is rooted in racism. I look at Combs' argument and his chances of success. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Sean Diddy Combs wants one of the counts in his federal superseding indictment thrown out. Combs argues he's basically being singled out by federal prosecutors because of his race and his success in business.
Diddy's defense seems to be gearing up toward his alleged criminal conduct wasn't criminal. It was his personal business of what was going on in his bedrooms or hotels or wherever the freak-offs occurred. So they're saying that count 3 wasn't transportation to engage in prostitution, but was just him using escorts, male escorts at that, to bring in as a third with his girlfriends. Whereas the government's theory of the case is Diddy used force, fraud, and coercion to make his alleged victims have sex against their will in his freak-offs that he recorded for his own pleasure. Now, Diddy pleaded not guilty to all his charges, hence why the case is going to.
Diddy's luck seems to be running out, and so are his lawyers. Judge Aaron Subin recently ruled that the search of Diddy's jail cell did not violate his rights. Diddy's defense team had argued that the search was illegal and used this claim to push for a mistrial. However, Judge Subin found no evidence to support these claims and confirmed that the trial would continue. The documents found, along with recorded jail calls, prove that Diddy was in contact with witnesses, allegedly trying to intimidate them.
Basically, the idea was that this was a pretext to search Sean Combs' unit. But the idea here is there was a raid to search for contraband. This is a detention center that has been plagued with violence and drugs and weapons. Okay, so this raid, this sweep, it happens. And this investigator, Investigator 1, apparently took photos of 19 pages of Sean Combs' notes and sent them to a filter team. Now, a filter team is supposed to be an independent, third-party team not connected to the prosecutors that are involved in Combs' actual criminal case. They go through the documents and they make sure there's not anything in there that's attorney-client or work product privileged, okay? So the order continues from Judge Subramanian. In November, the government included some of what it received from the filter team in its opposition to Combs' bail application, and Combs objected, arguing that those notes contained privileged information and were obtained in violation of Combs' constitutional rights. The court held an emergency hearing at which the government indicated that it would not rely on the notes in opposing the bail application. The court ordered the case team to get rid of the notes in its possession, which it did. Combs should be denied bail. Why? Because they seem to indicate that those notes suggest Combs was improperly contacting and paying off a witness in the case. Yeah, they say this will show it. But yes, Judge Subramanian, in the end, ordered that those 19 pages be destroyed and that the government did not and could not use those notes in their argument for bail, but for Sean Combs it didn't matter. He was denied bail nonetheless.
Speaking of witness tampering, a source at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, has claimed that Diddy has been attempting to communicate with female inmates through a peephole.
So according to the government, a person referred to as Investigator 1 had apparently been monitoring Sean Combs' phone calls and other communications. That's one of the ways that officials learned that Combs was allegedly breaking the jail rules by reportedly doing things like using other inmates' ID numbers or initiating three-way phone calls to potentially contact somebody he wasn't supposed to. But the defense has raised alarm bells when they say that this investigator improperly took photos of privileged notes in Combs' cell and then gave that information to the prosecution, despite the fact that the defense claims the word legal was written on the notepads, meaning there's attorney-client privilege issues.
Back to the case. Prosecutors have now filed a superseding indictment, revealing that the number of alleged victims is higher than previously believed. The duration of the crimes has been extended by 4 years, and 2 more victims have come forward. While the indictment does not name them, clues from existing evidence suggest their possible identities.
Basically means that the previous charges have been updated and the government have added new details to the case. They've expanded either the charges against someone, which isn't what's happened here, or they have added new detail about the alleged crimes, which is what is happening in this particular case.
So what's new, what's different in this superseding indictment?
There are no new charges against Diddy. Like you said, he's still accused of sex trafficking, of racketeering and transportation for the purposes of prostitution. But what the prosecutors have done is expanded the case with more details. They've added 2 new female victims, and they've also said that the alleged crimes took place over a longer time frame than they'd initially said. It now runs from 2004 to 2024, whereas before it had just been a 16-year time span.
And you mentioned there about adding new victims. That's victim 2 and victim 3 referred to in this indictment, but we already had a victim. We had victim 1. They're still in it?
Yes, that's right. So victim 1 is the case that they built the federal prosecution on.
And they say about these 3 victims, Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power of the Combs global enterprise to intimidate, threaten and lure female victims into Combs's orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims, 1, 2 and 3, to engage in commercial sex acts. In connection with the commercial sex acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities and payments of rent and housing expenses.
The new indictment closely matches accusations made by Diddy's former executive assistant, Philip Pines, in a recent accusaries. Pines is a key witness for prosecutors, as his claims are backed by photographic evidence and text messages. Pines alleges that Diddy forced him to participate in disturbing activities to prove his loyalty, even making him refer to Diddy as the king.
Former assistant Deshaun Diddy Combs speaking out in a new interview with new allegations about wild parties and drug use. Eva Pilgrim is here with the story. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Michael. At this point, we've all probably heard about these infamous parties. Diddy's assistant now giving us details about what he says were called Wild King Nights.
This morning, new details allegedly inside Diddy's world before his shocking arrest. The entertainment mogul now behind bars for federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
It was a circus. He did whatever he wanted, and we were just at his disposal.
Phil Pines was Diddy's senior executive assistant from 2019 to 2021. He says his then boss asked him to purchase supplies for parties dubbed Wild King Nights.
We usually had a laundry list of items that included lights, alcohol, marijuana, ketamine. Those requests started to become more frequent.
Pines claims many of these parties involved younger women.
A lot of times you have him with a younger female, and there's a power dynamic there. A more impressionable girl is easier to reel in. Consent is between the people that are engaging, and I wasn't there in these situations to understand the consent.
Yes. One of the things is, the thing that stuck out to me, you mentioned it before, these allegations are so consistent with what the allegations are that are laid out by prosecutors when they describe the freak-offs in their indictment, right? These sex-fueled parties, these drug-fueled parties, the baby oil, the Astroglide, and it makes me wonder, A, do you think Mr. Pines is a cooperating witness for the government? B, if so, do you think he was one of the people that they originally spoke to when they were coming up with this, when they were drafting the indictment and coming up with the charges? Or do you think he's come out after? Because again, I think the timing of the lawsuit's important too, at the end of the year, right now. Talk to me about what you think his role might be.
If I had to guess, I would figure that the feds already talked to him, just because I know from my experience dealing with them how all-encompassing their investigations are. And if he really was his executive assistant from the time frame that they allege in the lawsuit, I can't see a scenario where they wouldn't. They investigate regular cases to the point that that I'm shocked when I see it as a criminal defense attorney with regular people. When you're talking about a high profile celebrity case like this, I can't fathom that no one spoke to this individual prior to this. So I would think that they did speak to him. And I can't imagine that he's not a witness, because the way that they work is they want everybody that can corroborate their theory of the case to be on their witness list, or to be somebody that they could call. And I can't think that if he actually was his assistant for this time frame, he would be an excellent witness.
Diddy is panicking after Pines spoke out. In response, he has filed a $100 million lawsuit against NBC, claiming that the network and Pines are spreading false and damaging accusations against him.
Diddy Combs sues NBC for $100 million over its Peacock documentary about him. According to docs obtained by E! News February 12th, the Bad Boy Records founder filed a lawsuit against NBC Universal seeking $100 million after Peacock, the streaming service owned by the media company, released the documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. In the filing, Combs, who is currently in jail on sex trafficking and racketeering charges, accuses NBC Universal of defamation and alleged that the company maliciously and recklessly broadcast the documentary, which included claims that the rapper committed crimes like serial murder and sexual assault of minors without having a shred of evidence. The filing reads, in making and broadcasting these falsehoods, among others, defendants seek only to capitalize on the public's appetite for scandal without any regard for the truth and at the expense of Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial.
Interestingly, this $100 million figure matches another major legal battle Diddy recently lost. In an unrelated case, a man named Cardello Smith sued Diddy, claiming he was raped by him in 1997 at a Holiday Inn in Detroit while working as a bartender. Diddy was ordered to pay the massive sum and is currently appealing the ruling.
New at 5, the legal troubles continue for Sean Diddy Combs tonight after a judge ordered the music mogul to pay $100 million to a Michigan man who says that he was sexually assaulted by Combs in '97.
According to court documents, Derek Cardello Smith says Combs drugged and then assaulted him during an after party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit. But Combs never responded to the lawsuit in court. On Monday, the judge ordered him to pay $10 million each month starting in October. The victim is currently behind bars serving a 75-year prison sentence for criminal sexual conduct and kidnapping.
Diddy's empire is collapsing, and those closest to him are turning against him. His chief of staff, Christina Coram, was named in Lil Rod's lawsuit, with allegations that she helped manage many of Diddy's illegal activities. According to online sources, Coram is now considering turning on Diddy, and if she testifies, it could seal Diddy's fate forever.
More people are spotlighting this woman right here. This one right here has been called his, I can't read the name. Sorry, I can't say certain keywords, but hopefully you understand why. I'm doing my best. Doing my best, chat. But Sean Diddy Combs once called his Combs Enterprise Chief of Staff, Christina Coram, his right hand. It's a Coram? It's Coram. Source close to the federal investigation believes she is more his manipulator in chief. If anybody is a gatekeeper, Christina would know everything, the source added. High-ranking supervisors were flagged in the 3-court federal indictment, charging Combs with all the things we've said. Combs has pleaded not guilty to the charge, but remains in custody. He's now offering a $500 million bail, which was rejected. We'll see if he gets this appeal today. Coram has not been arrested or charged with any case. So does that mean she's working with the feds? Because if his right-hand man is actually sharing the secrets, well, he's even more in trouble, right? That's the done deal.
Desiree Smith, Tupac's ex-girlfriend, is also speaking out. She claims she knows a woman who was allegedly raped on camera by Diddy. According to Desiree, this woman accidentally walked in on Diddy engaging in sexual activities with another man. As revenge, Diddy allegedly assaulted her and threatened her life to keep her silent.
I know a lot of people that know him. I met one of his old security guards, and I've been to the tea about him. Weird shit, liking strap-ons. I met this girl one time that did a photo shoot for him. It's a nice young lady from Canada. And Me and her ended up going on vacation together, and a few months later, and she told me something that she saw go down at his house in the Hamptons. And then a few months later, she told me that she went hanging out with like his bodyguard and his entourage, and somebody drugged her and she doesn't know what happened. So none of this is alarming. And then she went back to Canada. So.
And how long ago was this? Was this in the 90s?
This was in the 2000s, maybe like around 2004, 2006, somewhere around there. He's been doing
Diddy's infamous recorded tapes are set to be played in court, which could destroy his career completely. The jury will see video evidence of Diddy allegedly abusing minors. So far, the FBI has obtained 8 tapes, and hundreds more are reportedly being sold on the dark web.
The trial starts and the jury sits. Will they be shown these tapes?
100%.
Will they have to watch it in court? Like during the
100% in court in front of a room of people. And so that's the other thing that's awful. They are going to be watching basically porn for hours on end in front of people. So in front of victim one, whoever it may be, there's going to be porn played in the federal courtroom.
And victim one would have been made aware of this.
Oh, 100%. She's probably being told right now, like, this is going to be played in open court. Your sex history, your sex life is going to be talked about in open court. All of this.
And presumably then she knows that and she's pushing forward because she hasn't withdrawn.
But don't forget this. It doesn't matter if she does or she doesn't. This isn't the civil case. This is the criminal case. So she could flat out tell the federal government, I don't want to participate. And they can say, we don't care. This is a crime. Crimes are against the United States, not against, they keep calling her victim one, but don't forget, she's a witness to a crime. So it doesn't matter if she went to them in today and said, I'm not participating. Their response, we don't care. Get your on the stand.
So far, more than 40 lawsuits have been filed against Diddy, and the latest ones are the most serious yet. 2 men have accused him of rape, while a married woman claims that Diddy drugged and assaulted her. The woman, who filed the lawsuit anonymously, is just one of many now taking legal action against him.
She refused repeatedly and reminded him she's married. But according to the complaint, Diddy became visibly angry at her resisting and tried to remove her clothes himself, despite her objecting. Now remember how I mentioned she texted her husband his address she saw from the mail in his car? Well, she told Diddy she texted her husband the address. And while she says Diddy took a beat, it was only temporarily. He then kept groping her and attempting to initiate sexual acts. She claims for 4 hours, Diddy subjected her to continuous unwanted touching and groping of her breasts in private, and even went further. Now, according to the court filing, eventually whatever drug she believed she ingested began to wear off, and then she regained enough strength to insist on leaving Diddy's home and demand he call her a cab. While she still felt the effects of the substance, Jane Doe says she left his home emotionally shaken and physically impaired, as well as shocked by what had happened. Now, Diddy's attorneys denied the allegation, saying no matter how many lawsuits are filed, especially by individuals who refuse to put their own names behind their claims, it won't change the fact that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted or sex trafficked anyone, man or woman, adult or minor. We live in a world where anyone can file a lawsuit for any reason. Fortunately, a fair and impartial judicial process exists to find the truth, and Mr. Combs is confident he will prevail in court.
Last Friday evening, Tony Busby filed to dismiss this lawsuit with prejudice. Dismissing a lawsuit with prejudice means it will not, and more importantly, it means it cannot be refiled. Jay-Z said in a statement, "Today is a victory. The frivolous, fictitious, and appalling allegations have been dismissed. This civil suit was without merit and never going anywhere. The fictional tale they created was laughable, if not for the seriousness of the claims. I would not wish this experience on anyone. The trauma that my wife, my children, loved ones, and I have endured can never be dismissed. This 1-800 lawyer gets to file a suit hiding behind Jane Doe, and when they quickly realize that the money grab is going to fail, they get to walk away with no repercussions. The system has failed." Sean Combs also had something to say about Busby dismissing the suit. Today's complete dismissal without a settlement by the 1-800 attorney is yet another confirmation that these lawsuits are built on falsehoods, not facts. For months, we have seen case after case filed by individuals hiding behind anonymity, pushed forward by an attorney more focused on media headlines than legal merit. Just like this claim, the others will fall apart because there is no truth to them.
A new lawsuit is also in the works, linking Diddy to a known sex trafficker. The lawsuit alleges that Diddy worked with this trafficker to source minors for his secret operations. One victim claims her handler was contacted by Diddy and she, along with other underage girls, was sent to Diddy's party. She says Diddy personally assaulted her and was also seen engaging with a 12-year-old minor on the bed beside her.
Busby is making sure, again, he's representing her, making sure that the court knows just how horrific these allegations are, because it reads, quote, defendant Sean Combs paid a number of sex traffickers to provide underage girls, including plaintiff, to be used for the sexual gratification of himself and his friends at a party in Miami. Defendant Combs' arranging of these girls for sex led to plaintiff suffering approximately 20 separate instances of sexual assault at the party. This case seeks compensatory and punitive damages on behalf of this young victim of sex trafficking. Compensatory damages are those that can restore a plaintiff try to do so. Punitive damages are a way to punish the defendant or defendants for really bad, egregious behavior. Now, it's interesting that an alleged sex trafficking victim is coming forward, as Combs faces himself federal sex trafficking allegations, criminal charges for allegedly forcing people to participate in sex acts with commercial sex workers for his own gratification.
With allegations of child abuse surfacing, Diddy's safety inside prison is now at risk. Inmates have a zero-tolerance policy for pedophiles, and word is spreading fast. Diddy is reportedly doing everything he can to avoid being placed in general population, where many inmates are waiting to confront.
So this jail's conditions, have been described as dirty, notorious for mice, maggots, inmate violence, power outages. You spent 10 years in 11 different facilities, so you know what life is like for him right now. Take us behind the scenes.
I was also at MDC Los Angeles. It's like a cookie cutter of the MDC in New York. So yeah, I do know. But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on suicide watch, and they hand out like psych meds, like they're M&Ms to these inmates to try to get them to cope with what's going on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits. If his lawyer does a legal visit, they have to come upstairs into the special housing unit to see him. Now, have you seen these reports about all these commissary items they say that he could buy? Any of those?
What was one of them? Steak or something?
Ribeye, steak,
Yeah.
all kinds of nonsense. He's in the shoe, people. He's in a special housing unit. He cannot buy things off the regular commissary list.
In a last-ditch effort, Diddy faked a medical issue to get out of MDC. On February 2nd, he was taken to a Brooklyn hospital for an MRI scan in the middle of the night. The big question is, who approved this special treatment? And is Diddy still pulling strings from behind bars?
Why does he get the cover of darkness? Why does he get taken out because he needs an aspirin? Help me, Dr. Hendricks.
Well, I'll tell you, each inmate gets a physical within 14 days of their arrival at any facility. And I'm sure, based on reports of him having several knee surgeries throughout the years after being a marathoner back in 2003, so this may have been in the works in terms of getting him out for an MRI, because I know that they don't have that equipment at the institution. And I'll just tell you this, they probably had set this appointment up months, maybe weeks ago, and they set it up for the evening.
To leave at 1 a.m. in the cover of darkness? Okay, you think that's what they set up, Hendricks? Look, I know you're being loyal to MDC, but can we get real? Leaving MDC because your knee hurts? Have you seen that POC?
Diddy's empire is crumbling, and his legal troubles are piling up fast. With his lawyers quitting, insiders flipping, and prosecutors gathering more evidence, his future looks bleak. But do you think this is really the end for Diddy? Or will he somehow escape justice once again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.